I'm tightening the leash.
If we let this happen to Miss Casey, who's going to step up when it happens to us?
Now. Goodbye, Marcus.
Wait!
Tramell, welcome to the Awards Tour podcast.
Thank you. Glad to be
First
here.
of all, congratulations on your Emmy.
I haven't gotten it yet.
I know, but your Emmy nomination. Yeah, sorry. I'm joking. Congratulations on your Emmy nomination.
Thank you.
It's like I had to start with that because you are literally, I've done a lot of interviews with folks. There's literally like feverish campaigns about, listen, you need to understand what this man did with this role. And I think it's a testament to what you've done over these 2 seasons. So I'd be curious for you, just going back to that moment, what was it like when you heard that you were going to get your first Emmy nomination from Mr. Milchick?
It was unbelievable. It was so hard for me to process that moment in real time. And it's also because at that same moment, I was in the process of getting ready to move. So this was a huge moment of transition for me. You know, I was living in an apartment for 5 years and realized that I had expanded out of that place. And that very day, I was set to go pick up the keys. So I didn't know what the outcome was going to be, but if it was good or not, I knew that there was a new place that I was going to. And it was a cherry on the top of the cake when the nomination came in. And I was so enthralled and jumping up and down, not just for me, but also my fellow cast members and the show at large. I mean, we had 27 Emmy nominations and the creative arts segment as well. And one of the first people I called was my mom. And I had to tell her the news and invite her to be my +1. And we laughed and cried over the phone. And then at a split second, I thought, oh, wait, I need to go pick up my keys to my new apartment. So it was such a banner moment, a full day.
Oh, I can only imagine. And listen, this season was so incredible. And I think from the first frame of this season into the last, we really saw this evolution of Milchick and what you were sort of doing with the character. But I have to ask you, because so many folks have like keyed in on it. In fact, it was in your performance review. Do you have a favorite Mr. Milchick big word? Because devour fecklessness is pretty big. It's pretty big.
Devour feculence.
Feculence. There you go. Feculence. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, that's iconic. I have seen that word used over social media a lot. I've even seen it on political banners in protests. So I feel like that's when you know you've made it into the zeitgeist, when lines from television programs are being made into signs of protests.
Before that happened, when you were just reading the script, was there one particular one that like hit with you? Because I find with an actor that's going to be very different than what it would be like, say, when the world gets it. Or was it Devour at that time?
Well, you know, with Devour feculence, I wasn't sure how it was going to go over. You know, for me, that word or that phrasing was so on brand for him. It was the fact that he was delivering it to the guy who was policing his language.
Yeah.
I thought the big surprise for me is when Milchick dropped the F-bomb in the elevator, because I don't think we've heard him use the F word at all in season 1 or season 2. And for him to like drop it in like without batting an eye, as if this is just how I'm going to give it to you, straight no chaser, and dare him to respond and catch him off guard was brilliant. And that's so much fun with that one.
Oh, yeah. No, actually, I agree with that because I feel that's an interesting place because that was right after he got bullied by Drummond.
Yes.
And so then he went to go be the bully, which I think is a huge part of it. But before we get diving into Severance, I wanted to start it off with that. But there's so many things I want to talk about before we get there because I'm very curious about your journey a little bit too, because not that old, because you were 29, I think, when they said you graduated from school or started acting or somewhere in that place. That was like your journey beginning was at 29. So this is like barely 10 years, just a little bit more that you've been on this journey. You've already achieved so much. That's a brave thing to kind of be down a path and then change it. Was there a particular movie, film moment that made you say, okay, I've got to do it now? It may not have been when everyone else did it, but I've got to do it now.
Well, to be honest, I've been acting since I was young. I'm pretty
Hmm.
sure I came out the womb putting on a performance. You know, I got my first opportunity when I was 10 years old,
Oh,
a
wow.
church play, and I had one line, and I was terrified to do it. But my mom strongly encouraged me to do it. And it was one of the best decisions I made in my life because something connected for me.
Wow.
And I had followed it for so long. But to be honest, I was afraid of pursuing it because I didn't think I was going to make it. I didn't have any close mentors who were performing at this high level in Hollywood,
Mm.
know, that were doing the thing, that were making a living continuously. You know, I was surrounded by people who worked for the government, who were teachers, politicians and the like, all wonderful people in the community giving back. But I didn't really see a whole lot of professional actors. And if I did, they were struggling.
Mm.
So I was terrified that if I did pursue my dream, that I would struggle for the rest of my life. So I really had to sit and wrestle with if that's what I wanted. And being told that I would never make it as an actor also didn't help the movement. So for a while, yes, I did. I studied medicine and went to school to study it and was doing well. But honestly, I was miserable. I was in chem lab ready to jump out the window because I just didn't want to do this anymore. It was not thrilling for me. And I looked at so many people in my life who were following their dreams, and even those who didn't have the opportunity to follow their dreams, and seeing what those situations did to them individually. And I said, listen, if I have the opportunity to pursue it, and I'm in a position where I'm fortunate to follow my dreams, I got to give it a shot.
Very glad that you did, because although I think a lot of the world got introduced to you in Severance, actually the first thing I saw you in was The Godfather of Harlem, which is this great show on MGM. Listen, I feel like MGM runs deep in the Black community because of that show, and there's like a few other shows that have been on there where like everybody that I know watches it in that kind of like stars power way.
Love
But you played a music producer in that one, Bobby, who was
it.
like in it. And I remember even then, first of all, you look so different too, even.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I was
Like
clean shaven. Like
clean
most
shaven.
people.
Also,
Yeah.
like, no offense, but you have definitely gotten your protein since then. I'm sorry, like
Yes.
I don't want to how to say this without being objectified, but you're a different build.
Yes. Yeah. Beefed up a little bit.
But
Yeah.
you saw it then, because that's a heavy set. There's a lot of people that have come through that show. I mean, it's got, Forrest Whitaker at the top. So of course everybody's like jumping to be a part of it. But yeah, talk a little bit about that experience. Was that the one where it felt like, okay, this can be a thing? Or was it something that you did earlier that kind of gave you that biggest confidence boost before you got to Severance?
For me, it was theater
Oh,
that
wow.
really gave me the confidence boost. I believe there's a quote out there that says, television gets you the money, film gets you the fame, theater gets you the street cred. So
Wow.
if you really want to test your chops as an actor, theater is 100% all the way, as what I gained from that quote. And so I was doing a lot of regional theater and working with heavy hitters, people that have done Shakespeare, the classics, August Wilson, Lorraine Hansberry, like all of the really great American plays. And I felt that if I can hold my own with them, I said, maybe this could be a thing. And it didn't come easy. I was auditioning like crazy and hitting my head up against the wall and bouncing around trying to decide if I was going to stay in New York. But it was really the love of the art form. It was the love of community, which you get when you're doing theater. There's nothing like live performance. And when I was given the opportunity to perform in front of the camera, my first television gig was Difficult People, and with Cole Escola.
Yeah.
Yeah, you remember that? Yeah.
Oh, wow, it's crazy.
Yeah. And I played the good guy, where I was an innocent bystander who was stepping in to help a woman who was in crisis. But it was like one of those shows, like, what would you do? Kind of things.
Is that Billy? That was Billy Eichner. I was like,
Billy Eichner, yep.
Billy Eichner.
Yeah.
I was like, there's somebody in that perfectly embodies difficult people. And I couldn't remember, not difficult, but like the character that he played.
The energy of
the energy of Billy. Billy's lovely.
Yeah. So that, dovetailed into Dietland, which was my first series regular gig. And I really just loved the immediacy of television, filming and going to the next thing and the next thing, and the feeling of improv and the sense of community that does exist on these sets in television and film. I just kept following it. I didn't want to think too hard about it. And I'm so glad I continued in that path.
I mean, we are too, because we would not have gotten the incredible, I call it like 60s bossa nova dance sequence that you did in the first season, leading into the marching band season. We wouldn't have gotten any of that. And we're going to talk about all of that in a moment. But I loved, I was listening to you on the Severance podcast when I was getting ready for this, and you were talking about sort of like getting cast a little bit and how they didn't really give you a lot of detail on who this person was going to kind of be. It was like a blank page. I think I'd be interested to hear you talk about both, I would guess, say the blessing of the curse of that as the actor, because they don't give you a lot. A lot of what is coming up with Mr. Milchick is discovered as we get to these new chapters. But you as an actor have to have this very intense, like sort of like other life, like a separate life that you're playing against to get these things. So how does that work? Like where you're like, I'm just making it up to myself and hope that I'm right? Or where do you go? Do they give you some like cheat sheets? What's the tea?
I mean, that's pretty much it. Like you really did have to you had to make a choice and just go for it, I mean, what's really great about the challenge is that it was well written. Dan Erickson is a wonderful writer, but the whole show, or even the sides that I received, was shrouded in mystery. I didn't know, what Lumen did. I didn't understand the company. All I got were the sides from the Red Ball scene where Helly is first integrated with the rest of the group and the refiners. And I had to make sense of it. So I just started to dissect what is there and then find ways to connect with all of these characters and just have a whole lot of fun doing it,
Seemed like it was a lot of fun. And sinister fun. Like, let's be real. Like, I think that's the other side of it, is that Mr. Milchick, I think, is like the perfect, like, dastardly version of like the model minority. There's like a lot that hits there. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot that hits there. And him cleaning up after a white woman left him in the lurch just hits on a different level. I'm not saying anything other than this is what happened. You could go with that how you feel. One of the things too I think is interesting about your character that you do get to play very much on screen, and I know, again, that podcast is gold, by the way. If people haven't listened to the Severance podcast, she gets lots of secrets, is that he's like the embodiment of code switching. It's like the literal embodiment of code switching. And we see it very big in this. Because if you take, like, for example, the Mr. Milchick that we meet at the beginning, who like drops his face when Adam Scott, when his character is like, oh, I broke protocol. Like, he's literally like devastated, to the man at the end of the show who is literally like abusing the innies and bullying them so that he can feel better about where he is, and like all of that. How much of that did you talk about it? Like, I feel like there's Black people that are commenting on this a lot, and I don't know if it's in the writer's room or conversations with you and Ben, but I'm like, no offense to Ben Stiller, I don't think this is something that he experienced, so I just want to know how these came about.
Sure. There were extensive conversations between myself, Ben, and Dan Erickson. You know, when I got the breakdown of the audition for this role, it did say, you know, African American, 20s and up. And the scripts that I saw, or the size that I saw, there was nothing that was really indicative of his ethnicity or his race. And when I was fortunate enough to be cast in the role and I started reading more, I said, okay, but you all specifically wanted this man to be Black, right? Because it didn't say all race, you know, or ethnic identities. It just said African American Black, right? So the conversation really started from, well, what does that mean if this is specifically where you want to go? And where are the opportunities to insert his identity in the culture of this corporate structure that is governed by, from what we've seen, white people? So there were a lot of conversations about code switching. You know, how he tends to each of the innies is very different from each other.
Yeah.
How he interacts with Cobell is different from how he would interact with Natalie, or how he would interact with Natalie is different from how he interacts with Zach, and then how he also interacts with Miss Wong. So it began to be this wonderful tapestry of showing how this man can shift in all of these different situations. And one of the biggest exercises is when I saw in the script, him having to go to visit the Audis, you know, in season 2. And it's like, oh, wow. So now not only are we seeing this man navigate the personalities of the innies, but now he also has to navigate the personalities of the Audis. And this guy is in such a position of power because he knows everything about everybody on that floor, because he interacts with all of the different facets of these people's personalities. And that gave the character so much heft, and as well as finding his nimbleness to navigate all of these situations and navigate it quickly.
Yeah, sometimes literally with a raise of an eyebrow or a trip down the hall, he's in like a different place. Another thing that's so interesting, I mean, I'm trying to also for folks that maybe haven't season 2, because it is a show that's very intense. Like, I had to come back to it because it's like, this is a lot, no offense. But it is also one of these shows, and they come around ever so often, going all the way back to like the Twilight Zone. But then later, you know, you have shows like Lost or shows like The Leftovers. And then obviously shows like Severance, where not only are people like watching it to be entertained, but there's this entire other language of like theories and Easter eggs and like the symbolism and the mythology and the lore, and like people are like spending hours trying to figure out what cartoon is playing on a specific television in a scene. Like, so I'd imagine as somebody involved in it, people are just coming up to you being like, what's going on? Like, what is this? Like, I like so confused. How is that for the actor? Because I'm sure they're coming up to you with theories. They're coming up with you with questions. It's not like they could just come up to you and be like, really liked you, slayed in the marching band. Like, they have inquiries.
Well, you know, what's funny? That's actually what happens. People just come up to me and say, you're really scary, and I really like the marching band, and they walk away.
Really? They just walk out. That's it. Okay, that's better. I thought they'd be harassing you for answers. Maybe they harass Ben.
Not me. I mean, maybe, you know, some of the other more approachable, you know, but I do see a lot of the theories, and I really had to stop myself from diving in too deep into them, because it makes me second guess my performance and second guess the story that we're telling. Because I do remember that cartoon that you're talking about, that Dylan's kid was watching, and the analysis behind it. And I was like, wait, is that what we're doing? Is that what was happening?
That's what they're doing. That is
You know?
what they're doing.
And it is like like sometimes a color is just a color. Sometimes blue is just blue, and that's that's all it is.
Sometimes,
You
but that's the
know?
kicker. You said sometimes. That's
I mean, sometimes yes, sometimes,
sometimes,
you
but
know.
sometimes that like there's a lot of things that like hit different. Like
Sure.
especially on those like Twilight Zone influences that people talk about. Like some people are like, no, this is tea. And then Ben Stiller, of course, being like, oh, I've been a huge fan of the Twilight Zone. I'm like,
Yeah.
figures.
But I love
Thanks,
that.
Ben.
I do love that's part of the discussion. I think it speaks to the brilliance of the show. It speaks to Ben's brilliance. Jessica Lee Gange, our cinematographer and director, who's also nominated. Dan Erickson, Sarah Edwards, who is our costume designer. It just speaks to everyone's attention to detail, which is so necessary in telling this story. We can't skip over any detail. Every detail, yes, is intentional. Now, how deep it is, I can't speak to.
That's a good point. You're like, how deep it is how deep they make it. And sometimes they make it pretty
But
deep. I will say that.
yeah. I guess it's like any piece of art that's out there. It's what you put on it, what you get from it. But I am enjoying the investment that people are pouring into this show and how this show has impacted their lives. I will get messages from people saying how this show has brought their family together because we can stream television and film on our phones and television. We can watch it anytime. There's very few shows that people are watching together as a family unit. And I think it's really beautiful that Severance is one of those shows that people are like, okay, next episode is out. We're all gathering together. We're going to watch the show. Everyone be quiet. We're invested. We're chimed in.
No, yeah, appointment set viewing. That is another thing that is very, and people like thinking of theories in between episode 6 going into episode 7 or 9 going into 10. There's so much of that.
I'll tell a story real quick. And I hope it's not a spoiler because I hope everyone has seen season 2. But
I think you're fine. Go ahead.
Okay. So I remember watching the season 2 opener with some of my friends. I had a watch party at a friend's house. They were so gracious to open their home. And we were watching the first episode, and there was a big spoiler that they got immediately. And I was like, and of course I couldn't say anything, but I was like, how did they get that? But it was because they were watching every single detail and they were so invested in the show. And any little thing, like a blink of an eye, like you mentioned, or a raise of an eyebrow, that is what turned it. And it was like, oh, they're this. Oh, no, this is that. And I was like, what do you guys talking about? You don't know what you're talking about. And all the while I'm like, oh, they got that right.
Panicked.
Out of what?
Panicked. Just like, how?
Like sweating.
I mean, that's a testament to how addictive the show is and how people are just signed up for it. Before we get out of here, I would be remiss, and I think the internet would lose it if I didn't talk about the marching band scene. I feel like you've talked about it so many different ways. I don't want to approach this in the way that everyone else has.
Okay.
I specifically would like to know the Beyonce influences here. I'm just saying. In the community, this is another reason why I'm like, Black people influence this. Sorry. I feel the influences.
You're not wrong. I mean, listen, I went to an HBCU. I went to 2 of them, one of which Jackson State University, home of the Sonic Boom of the South. I would watch marching bands and I would watch the Sonic Boom with absolute awe. Right. So when Ben approached me about doing this band, and I was like, well, what style do you want to do in this band? And he's like, I'm not sure. I said, I got an idea. And so the second number was really an ode to, HBCU bands.
I knew it was an ode to HBCU bands, but I just have to ask, at any point in the pre-production, did you rewatch Beyonce's Homecoming? Because I've had the headcanon that there is like a little bit with the yellow. Come on, just let me be right about that. I'm like, yes, I know this. I've heard you tell this story, but like specifically tell me that Beyonce, just the tip of her fingernail somehow influenced this production. Just let me have that.
Yes. She's queen. She's queen.
Sorry, I just needed that. I know that's like, I don't want to like get too much into the sauce and the magic of everything that is you going to an HBCU that was also in this, but I was like, just let me know that she dusted across there a little bit. Thank you.
I mean, it's like it's all part of it, right? It's all connected because she, I don't think she had the experience to go to an HBCU. So she had this homecoming experience and she infused HBCU, what that experience would look like at a homecoming. So, we're all pulling from the same pool.
Yeah. No, that's really great. Finally, though, before we get out of here, you've had some incredible scenes. There's some incredible monologues. There's some moments in this last two seasons that I think people will forever be talking about. But what's the one that really stands out to you? Is it harassing Zach? Because that one was, that was a lot for me.
I mean, it is a lot. It's a lot. I'm enjoying this fraternal combative relationship between Milchick and Dylan. It's really quite funny. There are really some wonderful moments. I think one of my favorites has to be episode 4 when we go outside, and we're in Woe's Hollow, and Milchick goes above and beyond to make sure that they have the best experience possible. I mean, he gave them these tents, he got them these wonderful 19th, 18th century garb, he got them 4-ply washroom tissue. I mean, this man spared no expense. And, one of my favorite lines from that episode is that, no, marshmallows are for team players, Dylan. They don't just hand them out. It's so good. And I had so much fun delivering that line out in the frigid tundra where we were shooting. But it's such a good time. And episode 4, I mean, because you had that twist at the end, and of course the heartbreaking moment with Irving and having to say goodbye. That was an iconic episode.
Absolutely. So many iconic moments, so many iconic episodes. Do we know how much longer before you go back to where you expect to be?
I wish I knew. I really do wish I knew.
Okay. So you know nothing about season 3. Like it is literally a memory, right? Like you're outie and they're doing the any work. Is that where we are?
That's exactly what like if I was severed, I feel like I could be at this particular moment severed and have no idea what they're doing. I mean, I know they're working. They are working on it and it is coming. I don't know.
Is there any place you want it to go? Like aspirationally, is there something you want to do in season 3 that you haven't gotten to do yet?
I didn't really get to play with the goats. I got jealous that day when Adam and Britt got to dance around and be with the goats all day. I actually missed that day they were filming, and I heard about it, and everyone was just in awe and had such joy around these goats. And then seeing Adam and Britt and Gwendolyn Christie around the goats, and it was just, yeah.
I hope you get some goat time next season. I really do. I want
Do a little
that.
goat yoga. That would be a cool scene.
It would be. Tramell, thank you so much. And congratulations on your Emmy nomination and best of luck.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.